Okay, guys, I'm back. I had to redo this video again. Um, I was watching a show on Prime called House of David. It looked interesting. I got a little turned off in the first scene because I grew up reading the Bible. And so in the Bible, I've never heard of David getting wounded or injured in his battle with Goliath. I'm not just, okay, because a lot of times the Bible will let you know what it wants you to know. So, yeah, you know, can't look. Got some blanket up here, a little chilly. So, anyway, and then, my pastor talked about it. He said he got turned off by the same thing and he didn't want to watch it. I said, nah, I'm going to see where this goes. So, I took a look at it. Some things I did like. Some things that I always drew up on. I remember people would get on me for being left-handed. I'm slightly ambidextrous, but they would get on me for being left-handed, and I would tell people that they had David had an army of men who were experts, left-handed, with the bow and arrow and with the sling, and they never missed. And we're talking about 700 dudes. Can you imagine being in a war with 700 marksmen who never missed? Hey, the battle's gone. So I was looking at that, and I thought that was really interesting. Um, um, I thought about they were talking about how Saul had fell out of favor with God because Saul was really into his own self. God was telling him, I think it was the Amalekites or Moabites, that he was supposed to kill them, kill their cattle, don't kill everybody. Man, in the show, I believe Paul kept the king alive. Also in the Bible, he took all the best cattle, distributed out amongst the men after God told them to wipe them all clean, wipe them all. And he didn't do that. Fell out of favor with God. Okay, and I'm bringing this story up because of the fact that these guys reverenced God and they reverenced the king, even though originally God didn't want them to have the king. God wanted to be king, but they kept crying for a king. He said, "All right, I'm gonna give you a king, but he's gonna mess up the nation, but I'm gonna give you a king." And Saul. So Saul falls out of favor with God. God anoints David. Okay, now back to the story of Goliath, David and Goliath. Okay, they did put something in the show that I thought was very interesting, and that was the sling and the accuracy of how they used that sling, or at least how David used the sling. And there was a scene in there where David was trying to convince his brothers to let him go to war. And he even said, "Look, if I hit that, will you let me go to war?" Right? So, okay. Then David took it to a step further. How about I hit two targets at the same time? And he did it accurately. It was like, wow. I mean, come on. Hundreds of years later, that was accurate. And even when his brother was talking smack about him and was getting ready to drink his wine, and pow, David slung a rock with the sling, didn't hit nobody but that bottle of wine. And I'm like, whoa. So I thought that was interesting. I also thought how interesting was like I said, their reverence for God and God's anointed. They had a reverence for Samuel. If Samuel came by, they was like, oh, we're going to sacrifice together. We're going to do this together, and we're going to do that. But anyway, a lot of people were against Saul because he was going against God. He was going against what God wanted. And I said, okay. And then they had the thing with Goliath and everything, and you got to know the story with that. But Saul had a problem dealing with being rejected by God, even though he didn't listen to God. And he started, you know, believing he started smelling himself, basically. He started believing his own mess, that it was him that did it. It wasn't God. He was the king. He conquered, and and they just threw God in as that about, yeah, I'm the king, I did this, and it wasn't about God. It was about Saul. And that's what made it bad. But what I did like was the reverence that everybody had. Not everybody, but the people that were for God, they had a reverence for God and whatever God chose. Now, back when Saul had his last fight, Saul did not want to die at the hands of the enemy. So what Saul did, Saul fell on his sword. And now there was a guy there, and he ran back and told David that Saul was dead. And David asked him, well, how did he die? And the guy was like, well, to be honest, I killed him. Knowing he didn't kill him. But he figured that would gain him favor with David by saying he killed Saul. Okay? And David just shocked at the fact that even though this guy wasn't in the anointed or God's anointed, that this man had the audacity to put his hands on Saul. And David killed him right then and there. Okay, and I said all that to say this. Be careful how you treat your leaders, whether they're in the right or in the wrong. Okay? That's God's person. That's God's man. That's God's woman. Be careful how you deal with them. And I had an incident when I was with my pastor. I love that woman. I am the son of Patricia Ann Wilson, the grandson of Patty Rubel Wilson, and my life would not have been complete if God had not put me in the path of Apostle Callie M. Jasper. That woman added so much value to my life. Okay, she made my family way less dysfunctional than it was. She did things that my mother couldn't do. My mother had me at a very young age, okay, and my grandmother could only do but so much. But her and my grandmother, were like this. They saw eye to eye, and the eye to eye that they saw was God. They both love God. So I said, wow. Even when my grandmother passed, and we were going to have her funeral at the funeral home, and that woman said, no, that woman was a soldier. Because I wasn't really in touch with the church that I grew up with. And I wanted, to be honest, the pain hurt so bad, I just wanted to get it over with of my grandmother passing. My grandmother was like my mother because my mother had me at such a young age. My grandmother raised me. So I wanted to get it over as quick as possible. They didn't get back to me in time. So I was just going to get my family. My pastor was like, no. She's like, no, she was a soldier. We're going to have that funeral here. That homegoing is going to be here. And I was like, wow, that speaks volumes. So anyway, I was her driver. I was one of her armor bearers. And in there, I was made. I would get nuggets from her every time I was in the car. And I even thank God because my children benefited from even traveling with her. And it's funny how you with somebody with so much anointing, but they're so down to earth. And so I was, wow. So now, one day we had a disagreement. I felt I was right. I thought I was right. Turns out I was right. She didn't agree with me. And it's like, you ever get into an argument with your mama or your parents? You know you're right. You can't backtalk. Same here. I wasn't going to back talk that woman. Okay. So what I did was I took it to God. That's the only person that I can talk to. How I look. I mean, when I say I love that woman, I love that woman with everything within me. And it was my job to make sure she came back the same way she went out. Okay? Through the help of God, it was my job to make sure nothing happened to that woman. Okay, so when you're in a position like that, you ain't got no feelings. Okay? You throw your feelings out the window. When you're in a position like that, you got to stay true to what you're supposed to do. I'm supposed to get her where she has to be at safely. I'm supposed to make sure nobody bothers her. Make sure nobody puts their hands on her. Make sure I'm praying in the background. Okay? And be honest, I think she protected me more than I protected her. I gotta stop talking about her because I'm gonna start crying, and I don't want to cry. But what ended up happening was I told God, and the next time I saw her, I didn't even mention it, because as far as I was concerned, it was over. That woman apologized and told me that she was indeed wrong. And I'm like, wow. So I said all that to say this. You don't have to tell everybody what's going on. And that's another thing. In that car, you keep their secrets. When you're driving, when you have the honor and the privilege of being with your pastor, keep your mouth shut. Don't say nothing, no matter what you hear. And if you hear something, pray. That's all. Just pray. Keep your mouth shut. You better not. You won't have that job no more. Okay. There are things that I know about people that it ain't coming out my mouth. Okay. I've even had somebody come to me, hug me, and say, you know what, Jerome? You saw me in a bad situation and you didn't treat me no different. You didn't look at me any different. And I'm like, yeah, we love you. Okay. And that's your situation. And it's not my job to go around talking about your situation. My job was to make sure she's good and that you're good. And that's it. And I'm going to leave it just at that. So when something like that happens, tell God. I even made a joke to her. I said, you know what I did, God, Ma? You know what I did, right? But I told God on you. I ain't got nobody else to tell. I told him. She said, you big head. I said, okay, Ma. Okay. I love that woman. And it was an honor and a privilege to serve her. And take care of your leader. Look after your leader. Be available for your leader. Okay? Let your leader know. And not even let them, show them they can trust you. Show God that he can trust you with your leader. Okay, I don't even know how I got into the leader thing, but I saw some things recently and it made me reminisce about those days. So that was it. I had to put this content up. Okay, even if I'm just talking about my leader who I miss dearly. But I thank God for the things that she instilled in us. And I thank God that she made it about God and not herself. And those people that know her, remember this phrase: give God what you won't give anybody else. And I'm like, wow, and I'm holding true to that. All right. I think I'm done for now. I had to put this out. The last one, the video was shoddy. And stay tuned. I got more stuff coming up. I'm going to try to post some pictures of my cruise with just me and not anybody. And one thing I will say about doing things and do things with your kids, okay, don't wait till they're grown and you can't do it with them because they got their own lives. I did things I didn't do enough. That's what it was. So do things, let them experience some stuff early. I don't know why I said that, but that's where I am. All right, love y'all. I'll talk to you later.